Welcome guys, welcome to this video. In this video we're going to explore laravel testing. So currently I have this app where I'm getting the employee data, and the employee data has like data where we have the salary of employee less than 60. There's a data table where we have all the data showing up. Then we have the between 60 to 100k, then we data table, and then we have the more than 100k, this type of data. So user needs to be logged in, and if the user is not logged in, user can't see that page. Now we are going to run tests on this, and so when I run the test, we have total in 6 tests and 12 assertions. So we will check you in our test if user is logged in. If not logged in, then we will not allow the user. We will also check if this page is showing this data. We are going to create a separate database. So we have this app's original database here, and we are going to create a database for the testing only. So if you see here in original database, we have employee data present, but in test it's not there, employees are not there. So what happens is basically in our code we are using the refresh database on top, so it's basically deletes everything from database, only uses when we need it. So let's see how we can do it, how can we create this and the tests for it. So let's get started. Alright guys, to start with, we need to create a Laravel project. I'm here on the Laravel website. The latest version is 9.x. So what I'm going to do is scroll down here. We need to use the composer to create our project. And here you can see the command. So I'm going to copy this. And in terminal, I'm already on the desktop, you can see here. I'm going to copy the command. I'm going to give this project a name. I'm going to call it Laravel test. And we need to wait till it completes. So after that we will be running the server, and make sure you have the XAMPP installed. I have the XAMPP running in my system, so I have it here. I'm going to start that, and if I go to now localhost /php myadmin, so here you're going to see the databases. So yeah, so we will be creating a database here, so make sure you have the XAMPP running. So let's see how we are doing with the command. Alright, so this is complete. Now I simply say here cd laravel test to get into the directory. Here I say php artisan serve. So this is going to run the development server for us. Copy the server link here, and I'm going to copy it here, and let's go. So we have our Laravel application up 9.3.1. Alright, now we need to open this project in the text editor. I have the folder in the desktop here, so I open the Visual Studio, and I'm going to drag and drop there. So now I have it here. Great. Now what we need to do, first thing first, I go to routes. There we have route web, which is dealing with this welcome page, and in resources we have the welcome.blade. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this portion where we have the login stuff going on. Before that, let's install the login system, because we want to make sure the user is logged in, only then he will be able to see the data. So for that, I go back to terminal, and here open another tab. Now we need to go to the same folder, so cd desktop and laravel test. Okay, now we're there. Now we need to say composer require laravel /UI. Alright, this is the package we need to install to make our auto pages working. So it will take some time, just do the trick. Okay, now this is done. Now what we need to do, we need to say php artisan, and we're going to call here UI, and we will use bootstrap. Okay, UI bootstrap and --auth for generating the auth scope holding. Now here it is suggesting us to run these commands, so I'm just going to copy these from here and paste here. Now further suggestions here, 9 p.m. install. So to update, we can install this. So I'm just going to copy this and paste here, and also going to copy this too. Now we need to run this. Alright, all done. Now we need to run npm run dev to see if everything is working. So if everything is working, it should compile, and it is doing it right now, so that's good. Now it is done. Now if we go back to application and refresh the page, we have the login here. and we go to this page, all the styles and everything is working, that means the alt pages are installed correctly. So we go to code editor. There, if you notice, you will have an alt page here, a folder here where we have login, register, verify, all these pages. Now what we need to do, we need to make some changes here. First thing first, I want to remove this page content because we don't want the Laravel page like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm simply going to cut this login links from here and select all and delete. We'll create the HTML5 scaffolding here. After that, we will put here these links. Now I want to use Bootstrap in this one, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to say Google, and there we are going to look for Bootstrap. Bootstrap CDN. Alright, let's look for it. So here we have the CDN. I'm gonna copy this, go back and paste in here. Alright, so here Laravel 9 testing. Okay, now here, if I go back here and now go back, Bootstrap, instead of CDN we say navbar. Alright, now here, scroll down and look for navbar. I'm gonna take this navbar, so just gonna copy this. Go back here. Now we need to implement this navbar in here. So when the user is logged in, this navbar will display like this. Alright, so we can remove this part. And with this collapse as well. We have these 4 links showing up there if you see these main links. So we just want to replace it with these links, the ones we are getting through Laravel. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this from here and I'm going to paste these here. Alright, now we need to pass the classes as same. So I'm just going to cut these and put here. The class cut. Delete these, we don't need these. And other than that, everything looks fine to me. I also delete this div here. Now we can move this a bit forward, just like this. Now let's see how it looks back there. Refresh the page. We have, you can see navigation on top, login pages goes there, registers goes there perfectly. Now that's one thing. Now another thing, what do we want to do? We want to put here some kind of, simply say here, auth check. And if it is, that means user is logged in, and then I say else, and here, and if, and here, inside it, I'm gonna say David with a class of Jumbotron. That's a Bootstrap class, just to give a bit of a styling. So if user, I will put here h2, and user, and then we say name. So this is going to display the username. All right, and after that, what we can do here, we can say simply HR, and I'm just gonna put a line. After that, I'm gonna put a link. So say anchor tag, and it's gonna have a href inside it. And basically, what I want to do, if user is not logged in that case, we're gonna put a link like this. And here we will say login. This is going to be login and also register. Now we can put here to make it a new line, we can put it inside p tag, and I put dashboard inside it. And the same way I'd say the login. Now this Jumbotron will only display the login, logged in, so we need to add it in else as well. If user is not logged in, so here we are not going to say welcome, we're going to say, so if I go here, refresh, it looks something like this. We can put some margin to make it better, so margin 5, and I want everything, whatever we have here, inside this div, so I put there, and the same way, margin -5, and everything, whatever we have outside, just put inside it. I go back here, refresh, much better. So user comes straight away, he goes here, then he's asked to log in, so the user has to log in. Alright, now what we need to do, we need to go back here. We have a home page, we need to make a few changes here as well. Also, we need to work with the database. So we currently don't have anything here. So let's create a database here. I'm going to create a database called laravel testing. All right, and create. Now we go back here. Here I'm gonna say env file, database is laravel testing, and password, rest everything is all right, so that's good. Now we do have a few migration files in database. If we get migration, so if I run the migration command, Laravel will create the user table and jobs table and password table. So we need an extra one, so because we want to create our own table for employee data. So we need to create the model, factory, seeder files. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to terminal. Here we have this going on, so I'm going to clear the screen and I'm going to say PHP artisan and then make model, and we're going to call this model employee, and we want to have the migration file, so I pass M for factory F and for seeder S. So when I hit return or enter, it creates model, factory, and migration. Now what we do here, and we also got the seeder. Now here, if I go, we have the create employee table, so we can put things here. In factory, I have an employee factory. In seeder, employee seeder, as well as in app models, we have employee models. So let's get started and work with this. So one by one, we need to work on these all. So first of all, in the table, I say here table, and what fields we need. We need an integer, and this is going to be employee underscore ID. The same way we have ID, we are passing employee ID, copy, paste. Now this time I want employee name. This is going to be type string. All right, then we have after this age, how old is an employee, so it's gonna be integer. All right, then we have joining date, so joining underscore date. Okay, so it's going to be 100, and it's just type string, and string type is going to create the varchar, which is various characters. So here, after joining date, I want to have salary, so I want to save the salary for each employee, and I want this to be float. Okay, so you can create float like this, and then after salary, we want to have bonus. How much bonus an employee makes, let's add it as a float as well. Then another, we're gonna have employee medical, and let's call it claims. All right, and default, we can set it as default. If we are not going to provide any value, it is going to add 0. So this is default, and also it should be float. All right, and then after medical expenses, let's add allowances. And I'm gonna copy this from here and paste here. I'm just gonna change this to allow allowances. And at last, we want one more. I want to call it leave payments. So this is all the data we need to store regarding an employee, and then the timestamp. So yeah, that's good. So now we need to create the factory, because we want to generate some data here. So let's do that. So I go here, and in employee factory, we want to define a few things. So if I see here, we can copy this, just who have the track. So I go back here, and here on top, and we can put it like this, so that we can see what fields we have we need to fill. So first field we have employee ID. We can take here and put it like this. All right, and then we can say, all right, we need to generate something. So we said this, and we're going to use Faker library, and we want to use unique each time, because each employee is going to have a unique ID, and I want to have the number and between, and I want to say 1 to 1000. So 1 to 1000, and make sure that each number you save as employee ID should be unique. So that's Faker library going to create that for us. Now here I say employee name, and then want to say $this and faker name. All right, this is going to generate the name for us. Then we have age, and in age $this faker, and at last actually what we can do for age, we can generate a random number. So I say mt_rand, pass between 23 to 60. So generate a random number between 23 to 60. And then after the age, we have joining date. Joining_date, spelling should be correct. Now here what we can say $this faker, and we want to generate date and time. All right, now the next one is going to be salary. And for salary, again, we're going to use from empty random. We want to pass here 50,000 to 150,000. Yeah, that's good enough. So here, after that, we have bonus. So bonus, and $this faker. Now here we can generate a random float. So I say random and float. Now, decimal points, first of all, you're going to define that. I'm going to say 2 decimal points between 100 to 5,000. This is the, you're going to generate between 100 to 5,000 and only 2 decimal points. So that's the bonus. After bonus, we need to generate, and we have employee medical claims. Let's copy from here. So, and for that, I'm going to use md_rand. Let's say 500, 200. I think that's good enough. md_rand, and I'm gonna make it from 100 to 2000. So this is what it is going to do. It's going to generate this data for us. Now we need to remove this, otherwise we're gonna get error. We just wanted to have it for reference. And now, as we defined it, we need to call it as well, because otherwise it's not gonna work. So now I need to go here in Cedar file, employee Cedar, and here we need to call, and we need to call our factory. And what am I going to do? I'm going to define here maximum records we want to create. I'm going to put it 200, and then what I want to do, I want to say for loop, and in the for loop I say $I is equal to 0, $I is less than, or let's say equal to $max, which is 200. $I plus plus. Now you can use $I or $A or $B, whatever you prefer. I'm just giving the name here. And I'm going to call the employee model, then factory, and I'm going to mention here create. And it's going to create 200 records for us. Now we could even do this way, yeah, employee and factory. And then we pass the number of records we want, and we want to create, right? We could do this way, but the thing is, we are not doing this way because we want to have unique ID for our employee ID. And for that, what I'm doing, I'm saying like, do this over and over, and each time make it unique. So for that, we need to call it like this way. If you're going to do 200 straight away, it is gonna create problems. So I'm gonna comment this one, and we need to call the employee here model. So use app and models, and then we have employee, right? So we can call it here. So now we can use it. Now at last but not least, we need to go into data Cedar, and we need to call here as well. So here are the way we call it. We say simple base, and then we say here employee Cedar. So first we say call, then we say employee, and this is the file where we defined just a moment ago. So we need to call this file here. So it's going to be employee Cedar. Okay, and it's a class. Okay, so it should be fine now. We should have data generated. So I'm going to remove this and this. Now let's see what happens if we do that. So I go here and say PHP artisan migrate. Let's say fresh dash seed, and we got error. So let's see what it is. Unknown column joining date. So here in Cedar, I have provided joining date. So employees, here we have, and here we gotta correct the joining date. Now we need to run the command again. Now note here that this command I added the here fresh. It was not required because it is going to make the database empty first and then going to do the data in. So in this case we need to get fresh because we want to remove everything from database and re-enter everything. So if I try this time everything goes through. Now if I see here, you can see the data. So we have 201 record here, and we have employee ID. Now we can check if each employee ID is unique. So if we have here an employee, so you simply say here where employee ID equals, you simply put the ID, and you should get only single record. So you can check for any ID wherever you want to check. So I'm going to restore it back. So I'm going to remove this. We need all the records. So we have records, that's great. So we can work with this. Now I'm going to close the migration and factory. And now it's the time we work with displaying our content. So if I go to employee model, however, we haven't faced any issue in the insertion of this data, but it is also good practice to pass fillable. So I'm going to pass here. So I'm going to say protected $fillable. And we need to pass here an array of fields that we want to insert data to. So I'm going to copy everything from here for reference, close it, paste here, and here we say employee ID, comma, and then bonus, and then employee medical claims. Have to fill it like this. Okay, across this now. Now we need to create a controller. So we do using that controller, we will display the data on the pages. So what I'm going to do, go to terminal again, clear the screen, PHP artisan make controller, and your controller. Oh, I haven't provided the name. That's why the error is there. So we say here employees. So controller should be plural. Model should be singular. That's a good practice. So here, now we have employees controller, so we can go there. So it's app HTTP, and then we need to look for controllers, and there is employees controller. All right. Now everything going to be displayed from this employee controller. That's what we want, because here we are going to fetch the data, and from here we want the user to see all the pages. So what I'm going to do here is, first thing first, I'm going to say main page view. So it's a main page view, and I'm going to simply call it here a public function index. And then here I want to say return view index. Okay, now if I scroll down, I close the database and these directories, and here we basically have welcome. So I'm going to rename this to index, and we need to go into web.php, because if I go here and in the main page, we're going to get error because we don't have welcome. We're just showing up from here. So we're going to say here, the main page, go for employee controller, and it's class, and then we have function index, and this all goes in array, so we might need to pass it like this. Okay, now we go back here, refresh. Okay, so we need to include this controller. So here, use app HTTP, and then we have controllers, and then we have employee controller. That should be fine. Go back, refresh. We have the page back. All right. So now if you go log in, and if we go here in the database, the database we created Laravel testing, and the user, we don't have any user, so let's register one. So I say here register. Let's call user test, and test, not sure this password, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 register. Now we are in dashboard page, right? We need to work on this dashboard page. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call here employee, and here I'm going to say dashboard page. Again, public function, I call it home. And here we want to have the basically return view, so return view home. So far so good. That's the file that is responsible for it. If we go to web.php, it's the file here for this route, and here we have name given to this route, which is home, and currently this function is dealing with this, but we want to change it to employee. And why I'm doing it this way, because I just want to have it in the same place so that we can work with that. So I'm going to remove this because we want to concentrate on testing more than anything else. Alright, so we have it. Now, if we refresh, it's still working, so everything is good. Now what we need to do, first thing first, I want to show the employee data here. So for that, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go back employee controller. Here we want to get the employee data, so I'm simply say $employees, or before that, let's add a try statement, so if we face an issue, we get the error. Let's try, go to employee model, and we need to get all. Okay, so if we want to see what is happening here, I'm just going to copy this, and here dd this, so paste here. So we should get the old data, and employees is missing, so we need to call it on top. So use app models, and then employee model. Alright, now it should be fine. Refresh. Now we have here 201 records. You can see here the collection, and then we have the data inside it. Great. So what we need to do, we need to make this data in a way. So basically, want to have data divided. So there are going to be employees where the salary is less than 60,000, and then the salary is between 60 and 100,000, and salaries were more than 100,000. So let's do that. So here we are going to divide the user, so employees. So here first check out, and I want to check if the check, and here I put else. All right. Now outside of this, I'm gonna just gonna make it like this. Here I can say data array, which is empty. Now we want to fetch these employees when user is logged in, so I put it inside here, so we don't run any query without checking user logged in. Here in else, we can cut the else statement, because I'm going to pass here return, and I'm going to simply return the data. So if we are logged in, we will have the data some value, otherwise it is going to be empty array. All right. Now here inside this, we want to divide the data, filter data basically. So for this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, first thing first, I'm going to put the check if we have employee data, so if, and here we want to say empty. And currently the data we are getting, it's an object. So if you want to check him using empty function, you need to pass to array. Now it is array, and here we can return the same. So if it is empty, we can return, or you can simply say here empty, return empty array. Alright, now what I want to do, I want to say here employees, where we want to say salary is less than 60K. Okay, we want to call these employees type A employees. And I want to do this, that I want to say here $sorted, or instead of sorted, let's call employee type A is equal to, and I want to do this in a separate file. So in controllers, we can create services. So here in HTTP, next to control, I'm going to create a folder here. I'm going to call this services. All right, and here in services, we're going to call a service employee service. So simply go here, new file, employee service. Okay, .php. Started with PHP. We need a namespace, and namespace going to be app / we have HTTP, and then instead of controller we have this time services. Services. And then this is a class, and I'm going to call it employee and service class. Okay. So basically, this is going to help us filter the data. So here we are going to create the data. So I'm going to create a function here. So I'm going to call public function, and I would say get employee type A, and we are going to pass the employee data in it, employees actually. And for now, I just say dd $employees. All right. So we need to call this method. So we need to call it here. So for calling the method, we simply say here new employee service. Employee service, and then the method name. So method, go back here and get employee type A. All right, and here, if you remember, we are passing employees. So you can see here as an argument. So we need to pass employees here. So we are getting employees data here. So if employee data is present, we are passing that employee data inside it. And then it is going to return us some data. The same way, we want to have two more functions. So I'm gonna copy this, paste here, where salary is, I'll call it more than 80K and less than 100K. Actually more than 60K. Now we are creating these multiple functions because we will have multiple tests to work on each of these. That's the reason I'm making more functions here. We can even do this in single function, but I want it to be one multiple. And the same way, I'm going to copy this now, and I'm going to paste here. Here more than, we say 100K salary. So this is going to be type B, so type B employee, and this is going to be type C employee. All right, and here we're going to call function type C, and here we're going to call it type B. Now these functions are not there yet, so we need to create. So I simply copy here, and here first thing first, I'm going to call here public, and create a variable employee type A data. By default, I'll set it to empty array. Same way, we want three functions here. And this is going to be type B, and this is going to be type C. Now I want to have comment here, and I say get employee type. Okay, so currently if I go here refresh, we have employee service not found. So yeah, we are calling it, we need to use it. So here use app /HTTP and then /services and then employee service. Now this should correct it, so go back and refresh. Okay, so we are getting one DD here. Alright, so here what we did here, we just called here, and this is going to employee service, and DD is happening here. So let's do this, let's add the logic here. So what I do simply, I'm going to call here is try statement. Now we have try on top of this, so we don't need to add try in here. So we simply can work with data. So I say $data is equal to empty array. This is a local variable we create, and here we'll write the logic. So here we say get, or I say get employees where data, or I say salary is is less than 60K. Alright, then here we got a condition if we pass here, and like this is an integer, and then we say here dollar employee, and we need to run a loop here first. So let me cut this and I say here for each dollar employees as dollar employee, and here if I say var dump dollar employee, you will see that your employee data is displayed. So let's see. So if I see here, refresh, you can see that employee data is showing up. Now we need to put a condition here that we were adding before. So here, if employee, now we can get the employee data using, like if I want to see salary, so I simply say here salary like this. So if I get refresh, you can see that salaries are coming. So we can check on this. So what I do simply is say here employee salary, okay, and then I put here is less than 60,000. Okay, then what do we want to do? Now we want to arrange the employee data in that case. So if you notice, I created the variable above the dollar data. We can use this. So it's a dollar data and put ID, and I'm gonna say it's equal to dollar employee ID. Same way, one by one, we need all the fields that we have in the database. If we go to testing employees, all the fields one by one, so we can say here like that. Copy and paste. Then another going to be employee underscore ID, and the same I want here. Then employee underscore name, and same I want here. Again, copy, paste. We have employee age, and age goes here. Then we need joining date, so I call it joined, and here it's going to be joining date. Joining date. Then we want to put here salary, and here salary. Same way we need to create here. Now what I want to do, I want to say that whatever employee expenses are, just sum them up. So I'll create here dollar data, and I'll say here that this is going to be total expenses, and what it is going to have in it, basically we are going to add things here. So we want to add salary. So we have salary plus, and we can put here employee medical allowance claims. Then we want to put employee allowances. Then employee leave payments. Now we missed the bonus, so I'll also put bonus here. So whatever is the total, we are also storing it, so this goes in the total. Now at last, what we need to do, we need to put this inside these variables that we have on top. So this is less than 60K, that means type A employee. So I'm gonna get this variable. So here I simply say data in it. So each time it runs, it's gonna store each employee's data. And at last, once all the data is done, because it's looping through, so when loop is complete, we can say return this array. All right. So this is gonna do the trick, and I'm gonna return us the type A data. Now quickly, we can do the same for others. So I'm gonna copy the for each to save our time. Minimize this and copy this. Now here, Actually, we can even get we can completely copy it and paste here. Okay, now here, where salary, and the condition will be changed here. Nothing else will change, so here it is more, and then end. We want to put this again on the other side, and this is going to be more than and then less than 100,000, one more zero, and this is going to be in type B, and return type will be B as well. All right, now that's good. So copy this again, and this is this type C now, and where salary is more than 100K, so we can put it here. And here simply we want to remove this statement, tell here, and salary is more than 100K, and this is going to be type C, and return type will be C as well. Okay, so our service is complete, and all the data will come to our controller where we are getting this data, and here it's type B, so here it's going to be B, and here it's going to be type C. Now let's see if we are getting the data. So if I simply put our DD here, comma, comma, and by comma separation we can see all the data in capital C and then capital B. Now go here, refresh, and I made a mistake, semicolon, refresh. Now you can see 25 first record here, where you can see that data is arranged in order. So this is something where the salary is less than 60, and then we have 73 records, then we have 103 records, so 3. So our data is coming as expected, and that's what we needed. Now what we want to do here is we want to return it to view. So I'm going to simply call here, what I say, I simply say $data variable, and I'm going to put here an array. Each array will take these values and going to pass these values. So I'm going to call here type A. All right, and that's going to be a variable, and it should be like this. I'm going to copy, paste. Here it's going to be type B. Here it's going to be type C. All right, and now we can return the view. So return view, and currently this method is home, and we want to display the data in home, and we want to pass data. So I say here data, and $data like this. Okay, we can remove this data from here. Actually, we do need it, because if the user is not logged in, and otherwise we have the view going on, so we are passing the data to user. Perfect. So if I refresh here, so we have this, so we have the data here. So what I want to do, I want to show the data. So I use the data tables in that case. So all right, now let's display the data. So I'm gonna go to the Google, and we're gonna look for bootstrap data table. We come to this link, and we have data tables here. So I go to HTML, and I simply copy everything from. So we get complete table here. Go back here. We have the home file where we have showing up currently the dashboard. So we need to work there. So home file is here, and what I want to do, I want to remove everything from here. Alright, and here I'm going to say div with the class of card, and I'm going to pass here margin 5, and inside it div with the class of card body. Alright, and here we want to pass here another class, so it's going to be actually what I do is simply paste the content first and go back here, refresh. Now we can see that. Now let's enable the data table features because we want to have them. So for that, basically I go to JavaScript. We need to include these three files. So copy these, go back in file, in here, if you say we are using the layout file in this case, so we can pass everything in there. So we have layout app. I go back there where the body is ending. We can paste this like that, and then we need to call one by one script, and it's source. All right, so I'm gonna copy and paste this, and then I'm gonna copy this, cut, and we paste here. Then this cut here, because we might not use the data table on every page. So if you want to include these files on every page, only then using layout file that where I'm adding here. So now here we do have this. So if you want to add in home, so here where we are closing everything, here we can also say add section, and we say scripts, add end section, and here inside it we want to run a script and paste it here like that. All right, we can indent it a bit. Now let's see if we are calling it inside layout. So scripts, we are not calling it. So the way we need to call it, it's like this, yield. So I'm gonna call it just after this, and we need to call this name so that yields there. So okay, we need to include CSS as well. We have two files here, so I'm just gonna copy these two files, and here we're gonna put these two files. So for CSS we use link, and I copy this link, cut this, paste here, and then cut this again, paste here. Remove the spacing, and I go here and refresh. Better. Now everything is working just fine here. So we have the table features enabled. You can see we have pagination and everything is there, but we don't want this much because we have three types of data, so I want to have only 5 records at once. So for that we need to customize it. We go to home, here we pass an object, and in here we say I display and then length, and that's going to be equal to 5. And also there is one more thing, we can say length menu. So by just adding this, if I go back here, you'd see only 5 records. Now I want to customize this as well because it has at least 10. So for that, if I paste here this code, and now it is going to have 5, 10, 25, 50, and then all. So refresh, and I can see that 5, 10, 25, 50, all. All right, now let's make this data dynamic. After that, we will be able to start the testing. So if I go to index now and cross this, so basically this is the home page, and we are calling here. So in table body we have table rows, so all the rows we can remove except one. So I'm just gonna do that. So till here, all the rows by removing here. One row stays, so you can see that only one here. Now, as we remember, we pass the data here like this, so we can loop through. Now with data, we have type A, type B inside. So if I try to display, let's say dd $data, and then I say here type A, like this, and then go here and refresh. So this is only type A data. If I say here type B, and you can see that these are 25 and this is 73. So we can display and loop through data using this. So what I do is simply copy this and go to the view file, home. All right, here we need to customize a bit as well, but for now what I'm going to do simply, I'm going to say at if is set, and I missed something here. Inside it is set, and then type A data first we need to show. So if we have the type A data, where the and if. Okay, so whole table only displays if we have type A data. Now if we need to loop through, so for that we say here, so we can loop through here, simply add for each, and the same way we need to pass $type A data, and we say here as $type A. Okay, and here add and for each. This goes a bit behind. Now let's see what we need. First we need name, then we need employee ID. After that we need age, then we usually I call it expense. And we also added the total, so total. And I think I'm missing join date, so let's add that too. So joined. Now just the same way we need to fetch the data. So here we say $type, and it's going to have the employee ID, employee underscore ID. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this, and 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, let's see if it works. Refresh. Okay, we have an error. Okay, type A. So second, first was employee name, second ID, then we have age, so it's going to be age, then we have salary, then we have bonus, after that we have medical benefits. I don't know what I called it, so we can go to service, open any of these, medical claims, so it's going to be medical claims. After that, allowances. After that, leave underscore payments. And then we add a total, so total expense. And at last we add joined. Let's see, refresh. And leave plus payment. Okay, it's leave underscore. Okay, so yeah, our data coming up just fine. So this is how it's supposed to work. Now what we need to do to separate out in the table body, it's here, so we can pass here live with the class of card header, and here I simply say type a employee, and we say here earnings less than 60K, just to show the difference here. Now what I want to do, I want to copy this all, and yeah, and then here we want to have some space, paste. And here it's going to be type B, and here it's going to be more than and less than. Okay, now here everything is going to be B. Type B, I'm just going to paste that here. Back and refresh. We have type A, we have type B. So the different data is coming, you see. Now here it is coming all the data at once. Now that is an issue we need to correct. So first thing first, what we need to do in here, I'm going to call margin top 5. And here where we are initiating the data table, we are saying ID, and we can have only one ID of example. So what we need to do, we need to work it on table, because each time we're gonna have table, 3 different tables. So if I change this to dot table, now it will work on all tables. So if you see here table 1, and here the table 2, so it's now working. And now what I need to do, I need to end this table here, and let me copy this. haven't started it here. So it looks separate, so you can see now it's better. I'm looking separate, type B, type A. Okay, let's add the other. Maybe this is type C. More than 100K. This is type C. Copy this. Paste here, paste here. Here. I think I made a mistake here where we're checking type is set. There we need to check for here A, and here it should be B, and then B, and then here it's C, and then C. Yeah, perfect. Alright, so it's working just fine for us now. So all three tables are displaying all the data, and now it's the time for placing tests. Alright guys, now let's create the tests. Now we could do that when we were working on these functions, but I wanted to show you step by step how we do it here for clearing the understanding. So currently we are in service file, and here I'm going to close all the files, and we have controller and service file. So if I go to database, we have a database where we have employee data and everything. But for the testing, we need to create a separate data, and we need to define about it in our configuration as well. So how it works, basically, we go scroll down, you will find a file with the name of PHP in it. Here you need to uncomment these two lines and remove this and this. Now here we are going to use MySQL, and I'm going to call underscore testing or unit testing. Now we need to define it. So for that we need to go inside the here, up here we need to look for config, then database, and look for MySQL. So we have here MySQL, so I just copy this, and in the same array at the end I paste it like this. Now the name we called is MySQL unit testing, so I copy this name and provide this name to here. And here we have database defined, so we need to mention new database, and that database is going to be only for testing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say database underscore testing, db testing database. Now currently in the env file we don't have it, so let's add it. So go back to env, where we have database. Here I'm going to pass another value. I'm going to call it laravel underscore unit underscore testing. Alright, so let's create this database. So I go to here and create it. And we have two databases now. Alright, great. So our main database is testing, and for testing we are using this database. Now currently this database is empty, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste this database name into main, and I'm going to run migration command. So I'm going to say php artisan migrate seed. And if you go back now, you will see that we have all the data here. Now I will revert it back. So this Laravel app is getting data from Laravel testing, and for testing we will be using this database. Okay, brilliant. So I close this, and we close database file. Its part is done. We close this as well. Now what we need to do, we need to create a test. So if we go here, we can search on Google Laravel testing. Getting started, and okay, so we need to create tests. Actually what I do is simply create tests straight away. So what I do here is say clear, and then we say php artisan make test, and it's going to be employee test, okay, and dash unit because it's a unit test. We create this, there's going to be a test added inside the test directory. So let's go there. So tests, and here we have feature and unit. So in unit we have the employee test. Now we have example tests as well, so I'm going to delete these two. So example test and here, because I don't want them to run along with our test. So now we have only single tests present here. Brilliant. Now let's go to controller where we need to work on this home function, and we need to work on this and the test for it. So first thing first, we are checking if the user is logged in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to employee test, and here I'm going to mention a method name. I'm going to remove example. I'm going to call it test if user not logged in. So in here, if user is not logged in, so we are returning empty array. Remember? So here we can check that. So if user is not logged in, now a test is test because it is mentioned test here. So if you remove this, it's not going to run as a test. So make sure you have this in front. And we need to change this PHP unit to use tests, and it's going to be test case. Now this is something that this gives the error. So while I was working on it, I faced a lot of time, so we generally use this one. So that's the reason I'm adding this one here. So we need to check if user is not logged in. So for that, I'm gonna call the controller straight away. So I simply say new, and this is employee controller, and then we're gonna call the method. And the method we are working is with, it's a home method. So let's call it straight away home. So when we call this method, what value it returns? So as we say $, return values. All right, so when you call this method, user is not logged in, so straight away it's going to return empty array. So we can check that. So we go here, test. So I'm gonna check here for $days, and I can check assert, and it's gonna be empty. This checks if the return value is empty array, this test is gonna pass. So I'm gonna copy this and paste it here. All right, I'm gonna comment this assertion. Now let's go back here, and we say to run test PHP artisan test, and we get the error. So here we say don't have this clause included, so we need to include it. So sorry about that, I forgot about it. So we need to get this path, and here on top we say use, and at last we say employee controller. Okay, so we have the employee service. For controller it's employees, and that's the reason we are facing issue here. Now here, if I run it again, now we have the test passed. So we are getting the empty array, and it is checking, and if it is empty, then we are successfully passing the test. Now you can also check one more thing here, that if you want to check is using $days, and you can say assert, and then you can say equals, and you pass first. First is the expected one, and the return value goes second. So we pass here second. Now if the return value is empty array, these two are equal, then this test will pass. So we can again run this, and you can see the test is passing. Now if I remove this, so we have and run this, now we get one test pass. Now we have two assertions running. So for getting the detail for that, what we do instead of running PHP out as a test, you can run vendor /bin/PHP unit. Now when you run this, it tells us the complete. It's a one test, two assertions, and both passed. Now for passing tests, you all need is basically a single assertion, because you just want to check that, okay, if the user is not logged in, we are returning empty array. That's the goal here, because you just want to check that if user is not logged in, are we getting the empty data? And that's what we are getting. So we are successfully working with it, because without going to app, we are checking it through terminal. That's the main goal here. So that is done by one of the assertions, so we don't need to add the another. So we can remove this one, and for your reference, I'm going to leave this one here. Now another thing we need to do is that to see another test case. So go back here, Now another case is if the user is logged in, then what? So if user is logged in, the user goes inside it, and then we get the employees data, and then we fetch all these data types. We are sorting here, basically manipulating with the data and taking out different type of data and then returning this data. And there is a view file where we are returning this data. So now we need to work with this. So let's go back to the test file. Now I also want to show you that if you remove the test from here, and you simply go here and run the test now. So we get no tests found in class employee tests, because that's something that makes it test. So make sure you have it there. Now, just in case you don't want to include test in front of the name of your function, you can also pass add test. Now, if you pass this and then you run this command, you can still see that one test, one assertion. Now, if I remove this from here, we get warning, and then we put test here, and then we again get the test running. So these are two ways you can do that. Now let's add another test here. So let's do that. So here simply I say public function, and this is going to be test get employee type A not empty. Okay, now this is a service function we are testing. So if you remember, we are running on these three functions. Those are getting the employee data, and then these are returning the array of new data with the only type A of employee. So I'm going to check if the type A employee function in service is working or not. So for that, what we need to do, we need to create a few employees. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say $employees, and then we want to call here employee model, and then factory. And using factory, we will create 200 employees. And we say here create. This is going to create the employees. And if we want, because when you create the employees, it is going to fill all these fields all by itself. All right, it's going to put employee ID, employee name, all by random generated. But if you want some particular field according to your value, you can pass here. So I'm going to pass here joining date. So I'm going to say here for the spelling, joining date. Joining underscore date. I want to pass here that put now and to date string. So only this field do it according to this, otherwise just fill all the data according to the factory. So factory is basically going to generate a random data, and for the way we did before, we added this random data. We did not add one by one, so it added all by itself. So that's the same way we're going to do here. All right, so when we put the data in there, what do we want to do? Now we want to call this method from service, because this method is returning an array of type A data. So what we want to do here, we want to call it. So I will say here $response, it's going to be equal to, and then we want to say new employee service. All right, and here in employee service, you want to call the method get. Let me copy the name. Get employee type A. All right, now we need to pass employees, so we pass this variable. Okay, and now the noticeable thing is that this is going to insert the data, and we are using the unit testing table. So it's going to work on this table. It's not going to deal with your live database. So it's very important, because if you do something like this, inserting or deleting data, that can affect your database. So that's the reason I created a separate table here. And now it's going to delete data from here. And I'm going to use for that on top, we're going to call use, and we're going to say here refresh database. Okay, and we need to also include it on top. So I'm going to copy and paste it here. So it's going to run before running the test. I'm going to make it empty. And so it's going to delete all these. Otherwise, if we create the 200 records, we already have 200 here, so it's going to be 400. So we just want 200, so it's going to add 200, refresh database will delete, and I made a spelling mistake, so we need to correct that. Okay. All right, so when we get the response, it should be array again. So what I'm going to check here, $days, and I want to check assert not empty. So whatever array is coming, it is not empty. Simple. So pass here this. Okay, so let's see that. Here I pass checks for type A data is returning from service function. And your function name should be as descriptive as possible, so when you later come to this function, you get the idea what is happening here. So let's run this test. We run this test and we get here that the employee is not found. So I did not include this, so we need to. So use app models employee, and so employees there, employee service also is not there, so we're gonna get error for that. So let's add that too. So use, and it's gonna be app http services and then employee service. All right, now it should be there. Now let's try. Okay, we get the 2 tests passed. So if you want to see what is happening, because this is just checking, if you want to check the data, you simply put data here, and you can also confirm. So if I run this test now, you can see that we are getting the data, and this is the user data we are getting using this. Now you're getting here total 15. The reason is because this is only type A of employees, so they are 15, so that's why. So we are passing this test. So if I go back here and refresh, you see nothing is there. Now this is a test database and employees are gone from here, all right? And that happened because we added a fresh database. So if I comment this and go back and run this command again, you can see it paused. Go back here and we will have, go back. So here we have the employees back. Now if I go again here and uncomment this time, you will notice that it is gone again. So if you want to remove the data each time, you can use the fresh database, and it's going to do that. Now we have 3 functions in service: type A, type B, type C. So for that we can simply copy and paste for this one, so that will save a lot of time. So simply I'm going to say get type B, and here we are passing for type B. All right, and the same way we can put here type B, and also we can put here type C, and then it's going to be here capital C. So same thing we are doing, we need to call here C. All right, now run the test, and we have 4 tests, 4 assertions, and if I go here, it's still empty, and all the things are done. And so far we managed to work with this, so our service methods are done. Now in controller, we were checking here. All right, guys, so we already had 4 tests in place. If user is not logged in, and we already worked with these service tests, those are quite small tests. Now we need to work on the controller function again. If the user is logged in, then we need to check that we are passing this data to this view. So we need to make sure that this data is reaching to this view file without going to application through test. So let's do that. So go back here, and here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another function, public function. I'm going to call this test, and this is going to be test if user logged, and spelling should be correct, logged in, and it's a home route, or let's say dashboard gets data or employee data. All right, so we are, because the function is returning to the home view, which is the dashboard where we are showing this data, so we need to make sure we are reaching here and with the data. So in the through test we need to check it. Okay, so let's do that. So we have the data refresh on the top already set. So here using factory, I'm going to create a user and then I'm going to log in that user. So currently if you go to here in the test database in users, we don't have a user. So we need to create a user through our test. So here let's create a user, and we want to call $user is equal to user and then factory. All right, and here you're going to say create. Now again, if you want to override some particular value, so we can pass an array. So when we create a user, we want to make sure that all the fields generated with factory, but the password should be generated whatever password we provide. Otherwise we don't know, because in the database it is going to be encrypted and we won't be able to guess it what exactly it is. So I'm going to pass here password, and that's going to be hash, and we are going to encrypt it ourselves, and I'm passing password as 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. All right, so we are passing this password. Now this code is going to create a user for us, and after that what we want to do, we want to send the same user to login page. So how we can do that? So we say here login. I say login the same user. Okay, and here we say $response is equal to $this post, and here route going to be login. So login, okay, and we will pass here the data we need to provide. So for login a user, when you go to the page and you go to, let's say, log out, login, we need to pass email and password. So we need to pass those two things here. So we say here email, and for getting the email we need to call this. So whatever user is created, it is stored inside this, so we can get the user and email. Now for the password, we all need to pass is the string that we provided, because that's the one is encrypted and inserted there. So we can use this password. Okay, so now here we say if logged in, check. So if we log in a user, so if I log in here, it goes to home page, right? So we can check that. So we can say here simply $response, and we say assert and redirect, and here we want to say /home. All right, so it's going to check that for us. So if I go to here and run the command, it runs and we get the okay. So we don't have user, we don't have hash, we need to include these two, so let's add that. Here I say use app /models /user, and then we need to include hash as well. So it's gonna be use illuminate, and then now let's try again. And we have 5 tests and 6 assertions, so you get the idea. Now this time this test ran, this test even passed because it created a user. Now if I go here and comment this and run the test again, and we go back here, database, test database, user, you will see it generated a user. Now you can see all the fields generated by Faker, but the password is something that we provided, that's why here it says. Now due to the refresh database, whenever we run the command, it checks and then also refreshes the database, so it goes away, the user doesn't stay there. So now as we have the user logged in this, then we can go further and check for user, like what exactly. So what we need to do here, I'm gonna get here $employees. This is going to be employee, and here I'm going to use factory again, and we want to use 200 records. We want to create here, create, and again I pass the array, and I think we used it before, so I'm gonna copy from here, paste here. All right, and that's it. Now if we want to check that this data is passing, so we need to make sure that these steps are happening, so we need to work here. So what I'm going to do, simply I'm going to say employee type A and data. Okay, equals, we simply say new employee service. All right, and he should be capital, employee service, and we get the function. So get employee, what was the name of it? Employee type A. And we can pass this employees here. All right, this will return data here. The same way we can get another data for type B, for type C. So simply here, type C, type B. Now at last we need to create $data equals array. This array going to have type, actually we can copy it from there. So in the controller we are doing it here, so I copy this and we paste it here. Now this employee we can paste here like that. Now let's change it to B, change it to C, and now as we have this data generated, now we need to check. So we need to get the data from our dashboard page. So for getting the data, get data from dashboard, we can use $days get, and we pass the route here. So we say route, we say home route, and I want to put it into the response, so $response. Okay, so this is going to be. Now then I'm gonna say here check, or simply assert here. So say this and assert equals. Now what is going to happen? We are going to assert, because the data in here are going to have these values. So if I go here and I put dd here, it is going to have, let's see here. So we say here dd, and go back here, refresh. We have keys and values. You can see here we have keys and values. So we can use a function array keys. So it's going to be array keys like this, and refresh. So we get these three keys, right? We can compare one array to another. So using array key, we can get the array keys here. Now here in this, we can do the same. So here I say dd $data, and when this runs, this test runs, so we check that. Okay, I made a mistake here. And for now, let's make a comment and run the test again. Okay, so you can see that we have array here. If I scroll top to, we have type C, and then this is inside type C. Then you scroll up, you will get type B. So similarly, if I pass here array keys, so you will get the same keys. So if I go here and run this test again, we get the same keys. So you can see here and this here. So to check that if we are getting the same data, we can match these keys. So for matching, we can use our assert equal. So simply all we need to say here is that array underscore keys. So I say here $data, comma, array keys, and here we need to pass the response data. So this response is having a data because we are getting it from that route, and here we can even check as well. So if I cut this piece here, and you can put here response data, so this time it will get it from the route instead from $data. So here we refresh it back. Here if I run it again, we get the data. So this is coming from the response. So if I remove this, our test should pass. So all right, 5 tests, 7 insertions. So we just made sure that this page is getting the data, and the data has the same array keys. Now this is happening, and now here All right, so far so good. So if the user is not logged in, we know that we are returning the empty array. If user is logged in, we are checking that if the data is present, then we are matching the data. We already checked the services. Now let's check one more thing. So we basically checked with the type A, type B. We just matched the array keys, and here in the test to make sure that this page is getting the data. Now you might say, okay, that's true that you have the keys here, but what if these values are missing somehow? These keys are present, but these values are not. So how we will test it? So we know halfway there using this test, but to check these values also, we can also write a test. Now you will not write only single test, either this or that, the one I'm going to write now. To demonstrate you, I wrote it twice so that you get the better understanding. So if we want to check these values as well, so let's do that. So here I'm gonna write another test, and it's going to be, let's scroll up here first, and this time it's going to be public function, and the main thing is what we want to call this test. So that's a test and underscore. So here I'm going to remove the test just in case we should have at least one test with add test on top. Now let's see if it is working. So dd from here. So if we have this test in our place, we should get here. So we have here, that means this test running. So let's deal with this. So first thing first, we're gonna skip a few steps here. We know that we need a user logged in, so we want to check that. So I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste here. All right, so we just logged in a user, and here we also pass this to check if user logged in. Okay. Now after that, we want to create employees as well. So till this data, we can have this all here too. Now here I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it $employee type data. I'm going to make it empty array by default. And here, then what I'm going to do? I'm going to say get one employee from each type. So from type A, type B, type C, we want to get each employee, one employee. So any employee it's going to be. So here I'm going to say for each, and I'm going to say $employee data type, and or you can use the so I simply get this and pass it here, $this as $employee A, and here what I want to do, I want to say I want to get this variable and I want to pass a key here. I'm going to call it type underscore A, and as it's a variable we need dollar here, and inside it we want to simply pass $employee A, and this $employee contains the employee data. So here we can say employee underscore name. We can even verify it, so let's check that. So I come in this, I copy this, and I paste here var dump, paste inside it. Now run the command, and we should get employee names. So you can see employee names here. So we are simply saying, okay, type A, put the employee names one by one. So it's going to loop through one by one, and it's going to put each employee name here. But it's going to get the last employee name here inside it because each time it's going to override. The same type we're going to do with the B. So employee B, we can put it B. So we're going to get employee from data A, employee from data type B, employee from data type C. So here at last I say dd. Alright, run the test. And we get 3. Type A, from type A, 1 employee name, type B, 1 employee name, and type C, 1 employee name. Now we want to check on the page whatever data we have. In type A, this employee name is present, in type B, this employee is present, and type C, this employee is present. And that will make sure that our data matches. and that's the goal here. So let's do that. So here, what we want to do, we want to get the data, and here I simply say $response equals $this, and get, and we pass route here, and the route going to be home, just the way we did before. And here, what I want to do, I want to say just dd. So here we want to say dd, and here, if you remember, we have data inside data. So I'm going to check here first. So when I do this, we get data, each data inside it. So we can get the employee. We need to check the employee name. So what we can do, we can make a collection. So we can say collect using Laravel collection, and it gives us the power to check if this collection contains. So we say contains, and what contains. So we need to check employee name. So we just copy employee name from there. We say, okay, in this collection, check for employee name. And what employee name we want to check? So we have here employee name. So we pass here. All right. So we are simply saying, okay, get the data from this route. In this data route, whatever data you're getting, make a collection. In that collection, check if there is employee name present with this name, the name we are catching here. So now run the test, and it should give us true, and it says false. All right, let's see what is happening here. So instead of generating 200 employees, I say let's generate only 20, and then we want to check if this is present. So here I'm gonna say I'm just gonna comment this one, and then I'm gonna say dd response, and let's put this employee name first. So this goes here, and semicolon. Now run this again, and all right, read on it. So okay, we get it here. So we have 7 in type A. So if you see here, when we get type C, type B, and type A, and we have Mr. Russell Windler MD. So this is this should be in type A, because this is the type A we passed. So let's see if we have it in type A. So here we have, here you can see that number 4. So the same name. So employee name is present there. So we have this Mr. Russell Windler MD, and then we have this array which has a type A, and then in type A 4th value is the same person, same employee. So basically it's inside type A. So we need to pass here type A as well. So here we need to say type capital A, I think it was. So yeah, so now it should work. So let's try. So if I say now true, now it found. So that's how it works. So now we know that it is returning true. So what we can do, we can cut it, we can remove these two, and we can put here $this assert, and I hope you guessed it already. So it's just so true. So we want to pass this inside it. So if it is true, and this is checking for true, so our test will pass. So here if I run it, 6 tests, 10 assertions, all passed. Now we need to check for each type. So this employee should be type B as well, and C. Also we need to check type C as well. So let's do that. So I copy this, and twice. Here I say check the second employee from this, where the type is B, and the type is C, from type C. Alright, so it should again work. Assertions will increase. So we have 6 tests, 12 assertions, all passed. So you get the idea. You create a separate database because your primary database shouldn't be there. So we don't have users here. We just run the test works. We now know that on that page we have data and where it's working just fine. So that's just through the command from the terminal. So that's how this all works. So if you have any suggestions or anything you want to talk about, you can leave the comments. And this is it. This is the Laravel testing. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Goodbye.